Morning and welcome to today's video. We're running some gravel and it's Bike Fit Tuesdays. So this is basically your commute home from work.
Yeah mate, part of it. Well, we've finished my commute now, so we're going to carry on going out. How much time have you got? Yeah, might be able to get to Guildford and back. You can basically, my old man lives in Farnham, like out in Hampshire, and I can ride on this towpath from my house in Walton all the way out there. It's 35 miles of this. It's fantastic. Can I get under that? No.
Hey, you got under it?
Hey! How's your ride, dude?
It's good.
Gravel riding's great.
It was way less stressful.
Dodge dog shit, not cars.
That's really uncomfortable with no cushion.
I know. You see, you kind of feel like it's you're going to hit it before you actually do. How you feeling?
Yeah, good.
Half a litre of Coke.
It's not half a litre. Should we do a Bike Fit Tuesdays? Pedals.
We're going to talk about pedals.
Yeah. What's the best pedal system for something?
Which is the best system?
Is there a best system? I mean, if you think about the three most common types of system are Look, Shimano and Speedplay. I don't really think there's necessarily a best system, but there are certainly systems that I recommend for certain individuals over others. Personally, my preferred system is the Shimano, on the grounds that it's the stiffest, it's the most durable. I moved from Look system quite recently back to Shimano and noticed a big difference in overall stability. That being said, Look is significantly easier to disengage from. I've certainly come across scenarios where you've got smaller individuals who have kind of less muscle bulk who might struggle to disengage from a Shimano system.
They do the light action ones now though.
They do, what Shimano do?
Daisy's one's super easy to get out, it's crazy.
It's you can only get the light action at the very entry level, and it's a shit pedal. It's an R540.
Yeah.
Which means that the the cleat actually doesn't fit into the pedal very well, so the cleat actually rattles around in the pedal. So it's not the most stable. If you're buying Shimano pedals, I personally recommend R550 and above. So R550 is a plastic pedal with a stainless steel insert to it. I mean, you could probably pick them up online for about £40, but the cheap aluminium pedal, in my opinion, isn't really worth buying. A good, again, quite rough guide might be to consider Shimano if you're a bigger individual, more powerful individual. Look, maybe if you're a lady, or if you're a slightly smaller individual. The third system is
Speedplay.
Speedplay. Some idiot once said Speedplay is a bike fitter's dream. I mean, I think they're a bike fitter's nightmare, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with the Speedplay system. It's a fantastic system. It has its own merits over the Shimano and the Look. I mean, it's got a massive amount of adjustability. One myth I do want to dispel is that Speedplay has enjoyed the myth that they cure knee pain for far too long. Speedplay pedals do not cure knee pain. They improve your ability to compensate, which means that they might relieve the symptoms of knee pain, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your position's right. You tend to get knee pain for some other reason other than just your cleats. A combination of reasons rather than just one isolated element of the position. The Speedplay benefit obviously is that it's two-sided, so you can literally just get on the thing, stamp on it. It's got quite a lot of adjustment to it. You can adjust how much float there is and also where that float ends up. Funnily enough, speaking to Andy about it, because Andy and I we often kind of dork out about pedals stuff, well, frankly, all things bike fit. Andy reckons, and I've never owned a Speedplay system, I've ridden them but I've never owned them, but Andy reckons from racing in Pro Tours that Speedplays tend to wear out quite quickly actually, because there's a retaining C-spring inside the cleat, and he reckons that goes soft quite quickly, which means you end up with play in the cleat. The only time Speedplay actually has a real benefit, in my opinion,
Four-aft extender.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is that if you've got a shoe, an individual who you need to get the cleat further back and they don't necessarily want to buy a new pair of shoes, the Speedplay system, you can buy an additional kit which allows you to move the cleat about 15-20 millimeters further back, so which is a hell of a lot. There aren't many scenarios where an individual comes to me and they're wearing Look, Shimano, Speedplay, and I say, oh, you absolutely must change your pedal system, unless there is a particular reason for them to change that said system. The other thing that's worth noting with Speedplays is that you've got 4 or 5 different axle width options. They are not easy to come by. They're also quite expensive, but you do have that option. Their mountain bike system actually is quite an interesting system because you can adjust for a leg length discrepancy on it.
One thing I want to point out, when you're buying pedals online and you see them massively discounted, sometimes they'll be because they've got really weird axle lengths, right?
Yeah,
you've got to be really careful.
They will be.
And they'll arrive, and then suddenly you've got a stance just like a karate.
I've had a guy who's had 59mm speed plays that look like bloody lollipops.
I'm wondering what's going on. Yeah,
skinny guy. Right,
but they were 20 quid.
Yeah, exactly. Right, you're absolutely right. To minefield.
Mountain bike.
Yeah, man. I've moved to a mountain bike shoe. So I guess that's another pedal system we haven't talked about is a mountain bike system, which is becoming a lot more popular with the advent of gravel. Or the increased popularity of gravel. It basically is a recessed cleat which enables you to walk on it more easily. The benefit of a mountain bike system is that you can just stamp on it, very similar to a speed play. The pitfalls of it, or the issues with it, are that it lacks adjustment. So you can't allow for a leg length discrepancy. You can't increase the stack of the thing. There's also there's no real means of canting the foot, which I do a reasonable amount in, so you can't reapply any wedging to it without.
You could put a wedge in the shoe.
You can put a wedge in the shoe, but that doesn't really do the same thing as fitting external wedges, and people often need a combination of the two.
Yeah.
I mean, I, for example, use a heel-driven wedge in both of my shoes, 2 wedges on the right foot and 1 on the left, external wedges. So I use quite a lot of wedging.
What about the weird kind of egg beater pedals and things like that? Are they more adjustable by any chance? Or?
They're not actually. So an egg beater lacks any adjustment whatsoever because it's got quite a lot of float. It's quite similar to the time system. Yes, we didn't talk about the time system.
Not very popular.
It's not very popular. I'm not a massive fan. Having owned a pair of RXSs a few years ago, I didn't like them because I used to find myself pulling out of them a lot. I popped out of them a lot. My biggest issue with them is that they have no adjustment for stance, so you can't move the cleat in a medial lateral plane. I mean, you can by swapping the cleats, but it's not a lot. I don't really like systems that lack adjustment. There's quite a lot of snobbery about mountain bike systems, recessed cleats. You can't ride a road bike with mountain bike shoes. You absolutely can ride a road bike with mountain bike shoes. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. One thing I will say is that I personally prefer carbon fibre soles over plastic soles, mostly because a carbon sole is a lot thinner. A plastic sole has to be comparatively thicker in order to retain the stiffness. So that basically has the same impact as lengthening the crank. Anyway, I digress.
So to conclude, if you are new to cycling, you're riding for a bit and you haven't got a clipped-in pedal system yet, you want to buy your first set of clipped-in shoes, what would you go for?
I think that's a really good question. I mean, there's a really good argument, a very strong argument for just going with a mountain bike system. Just in terms of ease, they're easy to walk around on. It's a 2-sided system, so you just literally stamp on the thing. A lot of the mountain bike systems now have a cage surrounding the actual engagement point of the pedal, so you can actually pedal with the thing without necessarily being clipped in. So actually finding that as a target might be a lot easier. That being said, it sort of does depend on the individual, because you've got someone that has a leg length discrepancy that needs to be accounted for. You can't account for that in a mountain bike system. This is kind of why I always say you're so much better going to a bike fitter first to kind of help you through all of this. Because I had a guy literally on the weekend who hasn't bought a bike, doesn't even own a bike, but came to me, had a bike fit first. We kind of talked through all of that stuff before, so he can make the right purchasing decisions before going out and making them. Let's talk about float next, and what the benefits and pitfalls of that are.
If you've got any questions regarding cleat setup and float.
Yeah, I think Bike Fit Tuesdays is back to stay, isn't it?
Nice stem you got on that, mate.
Piss off.